We struggle to build and maintain ships. Our fighter jet fleet is dangerously small, and our military infrastructure is outdated. Meanwhile, America's adversaries are growing their militaries and getting more aggressive. Does he have a point? Are we falling behind certain countries like China?
Well, I think this really highlights that we have a huge, bloated, and wasteful Department of Defense, because when they talk about how China and Russia are growing, and Russia is like close to 6% of GDP now that they're in this war here, and China continues to grow. Here's the thing. We spend more than 50% more than those two countries combined. So they produced, two air forces, two armies, two space forces, two missile forces, all of that. And we spend double that. And now then you're saying that we need to spend 50 billion more on top of that. What we don't need to do is just throw more money away. And when they talk about this and we have to catch up, you need to be specific about what we're going to do and where this money is going to go and how it ties in to our national security strategy. And I think far more than what we need is to just throw more cash on is to spend what we have a lot more effectively.
All right, Kurt, actually, you just got me to where I wanted to go, because we always hear these fights about, DOD says we don't need this certain plane, but they're going to make it anyway because certain members on committees that they want this to pass through, that's in their district and what have you. So set that aside. We have the space race, deadly serious, we hear. Hypersonic weapons, perhaps. AI, I don't even know where that's going. That all takes a lot of money on top of the ships and the missiles and all this and that. Where would you invest?
Well, yeah, and what we have to do is especially in light of this Russia-Ukraine war and where things are developing in the Indo-Pacific, we need to say, hey, do we have the right military for that? Or are we just trying to add on things from the Desert Storm military that we had that was so successful in the past or in 2003? And I think the evidence suggests, and from when I served in some of these modernization programs in the Army before I left active duty, I can tell you that we're still looking backwards and not forwards. And so we don't want to get rid of anything that we had. For example, we're still trying to have the same core division and brigade level type of Army formation that we had in World War II, for that matter. Even forget about Desert Storm alone. And instead of modernizing and saying, hey, how does new AI change things? How does the drone warfare change things? How is surface and subsurface ships affecting how we're going to fight? Because if we fight with the wrong military, it won't matter how much money we spend. We may have the wrong tools when the war comes. And I think that's one of our biggest deficiencies right now.
Okay, and then you have to get into the talent issue of, do you have people who know AI, who want to go into the military, who want to develop these things, work on these things? It's obviously really, really complex. You have Senator Wicker acknowledging there is a hill to climb here, as he put it. Could be pretty high. And, you have some Republicans right now saying spending is way out of control. We're not adding $55 billion. Are we likely to invest more?
Well, yeah, and that's the next question that you've got to ask. Aside from saying what kind of force do we need and what is the strategy to use it so that we have a chance to win any future wars that we may be forced into fighting, but then the question is, you have to be able to afford what you have, and you can't just have to wish things away. That's why it's not just a tough climb, but hard decisions have to be made, because you just can't do everything you want because you claim that the threat is high. You have to be able to afford it without bankrupting your country in the process. That's happened many times in history before. So it is crucial to be able to have a comprehensive strategic view of both where you want to go and the ways and means to get there. That's the bigger requirement.
Well, so you have fought, the books. You're talking about the future. I would love you to help us get to a sweet spot here, Colonel, because the U.S. is now paying more to service our debt than we are spending on defense. I mean, we're spending more on interest from money we've, borrowed and haven't paid back than we are spending on our military. And so you consider everything you just laid out and the sustainability issue. What is the right number?
Well, and it's hard to just pick a number out of thin air, but one of the things that you would have to do when you prioritize is to say what's important to America. Is it important to America to keep permanently stationed troops in Syria, in Iraq, in Somalia, in some of these other countries that have at best peripheral interest on American national security, and at worst, it's nothing but an absolute drain and a risk to our troops. I argue that what we need to do is shed all of these missions that don't have direct correlation to our national security, and then revitalize and reform the way we fight so that we make certain that we have the kind of force that we need, and then the funding, be able to afford what we need to get into the future. That's I think, just so important to do. It's not just find a new bottom line dollar figure and throw it out there.